Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I am the director of the Cyber Education Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Grow West, the Technology Council of West Kentucky, KY Innovation, and our local partner Sprocket Innovation in Paducah and the Kentucky Innovation Station in Madisonville. This is 10 at 10 episode number 83. Last week, we started a series that's going to run a few weeks looking at the top 10 mistakes that small businesses make in cybersecurity. I came across an article not too long ago that was talking about these 10 items, and I thought it would be interesting and helpful if we actually took the time to stop and go through each of these items, see what can we assess about this item, what can we learn from this item, and then hopefully each of you as you're watching this are thinking about what am I doing in my small business that I could do better, or even in your personal security, in your family, at your home. What can I do better to make myself, my family, my business a little safer? So we're working through this. We are on number two today, and number two today is being reactive. This is a mistake. Mistake number two is being reactive instead of being proactive. Small businesses too often take a reactive stance when it comes to cybersecurity. Small businesses will react to an incident instead of trying to be proactive and plan ahead of time. When it comes to security, there are too many businesses that are reactive instead of taking a proactive approach to security. So let me give some examples. Ransomware. Ransomware is probably the best example of this right now that's out there. So many small businesses, forget small businesses, so many organizations don't think about security until, and they're thinking, oh, well, how much money do we need to spend? What do we need to do? What can we do this? Can we do that? Can we add this thing? It's too late. It's too late. Yes, you got to respond. You got to react. You've got to recover from the ransomware attack. But you could have spent a tenth, a fraction of money that you spent to respond to the ransomware. You could have spent a tenth of that ahead of time and prevented it. So often organizations know they need to improve security, yet they don't do anything. Think several years ago, the Target breach that occurred. Target had an internal document that showed that they thought they might be susceptible to an attack, and that they had some vulnerabilities, yet they didn't do anything about it. That's why so many they were fined so much. They lost so many excuse me. They I think they ended up settling out of court, but they were losing in court because they knew they had a problem and they didn't do anything until it was too late. So if we can be proactive rather than reactive, then we're in a better position. So many organizations think that cybersecurity means that we have antivirus software and a firewall, and that's it. And then we'll go from there. That is not the case. It is so much more than that. We should be monitoring our network. We should be being proactive and teaching our employees about things. We talked about that last week about the awareness of cybersecurity. That's an issue. And how do we change that mindset? Well, there's a lot of things that we could do, and I'll show. These are some of the things that were actually listed in the article on Security Boulevard where I found this list. Have a comprehensive strategy. I'm not going to go through all these because all of these are true, and there's probably 100 other things that you could do. A couple of words that I see on this is continuous, active, comprehensive. I ended last week talking about how security is a journey. There's not a let's install antivirus and we're done. Let's install a firewall and we're done. Actually, I've shared this story on 10 at 10 before, but several years ago, I was talking to a doctor's office in Indiana, and This was shortly after the HIPAA guidelines came out, and the HIPAA guidelines said essentially that you had to have a firewall. So this doctor went and bought a firewall. He was following the rules. He bought the firewall and he put it on the bookshelf in his office. He didn't know, it didn't say he had to hook it up. It just said he had to have a firewall. Well, he had a firewall and he could point to it. And and that example to me is the epitome of some of the challenge that we face in small businesses. Now we're much further beyond that. We're much more sophisticated. That was 20 years ago. We know way better now what we're doing in cybersecurity than we did back then. But the point is, if we look at this as a checkbox that we do these things and we're done, then you're going to find yourself being reactive instead of proactive. I think the better way that I like to look at it is, is looking at the NIST cybersecurity framework. This framework was designed by NIST and it's been updated and it'll continue to be updated just like everything else, but it identified 5 different areas. Now, this actually has some items listed underneath it, and I like some of these subcategories, but you'll also find this in a circle. And identify goes to protect, goes to detect, goes to respond, goes to recover, and then back around to identify. It's a circle. It's a continuous circle, because to be truly proactive in cybersecurity means that we're always planning, that we're always thinking, what can we do now to better prepare ourselves for the next step? So first we have to identify. We have to identify our assets. We have to understand our business environment. We have to understand the governance structure and the risk, assess the risk, manage those risks. We have to identify all of those pieces ahead of time. Then we think about protection. It's access control. It is the multi-factor authentication. It is awareness and training. It is data security. It is all of those things that we've talked about, but it's not in a vacuum. So many organizations want to focus on that protect, on that purple column that you see, and stop there. Well, the problem is if you stop at the protect and you actually get infected, how do you know it? How long will your business be the victim of a cyber attack before you actually know it? With ransomware, it's going to be pretty fast because they want to get in and then hit you with ransomware and allow you to pay the ransom, or try to get you to pay the ransom. What ransomware started doing today is that they're stealing some personal files or confidential files before you get hit with the ransomware. So they're actually on your system for some amount of time before you actually get hit with the ransomware and the attack. Do you know that? Can you detect that? That detection piece is really important. And then how do you respond? The reality is there's a lot of businesses that go out of business, that have to close their doors, especially small businesses, following a cyber attack. How you respond and how you're able to recover is going to determine whether or not you have to shut your doors. Do you have a response plan in place? If you wait, and a month or so ago, you heard me talking about this. If you wait until you get hit with ransomware to figure out how to respond, you've waited too long. If you wait until you get hit with that security incident, that whatever that cyber attack is, if you wait till you get hit to start planning your response, you've waited too long and you're going to suffer for it. You've got to plan ahead of time. The more that you plan now, the better you'll be able to respond and recover. You've got to identify what it is you're protecting. You got to protect it. You've got to try to detect if something is happening, whether it's a intentional effort or unintentional. You've got to be able to respond to it. And then ultimately you got to be able to recover from it. Those are the pieces that you need to do ahead of time, to think about ahead of time, to make sure that you are being proactive in cybersecurity. Again, number two mistake made by small businesses is being reactive instead of proactive when it comes to security. You always need to be proactive. You will be better off when that awful time comes and you're the victim of a incident. You're going to be in a much better place than you would be if you were trying to just be reactive. I hope you found that helpful. I hope you find these interesting. Next week, we'll come back and we'll talk about number 3 on that top 10 mistakes made by small businesses. But for the meantime, thank you for joining us today on 10 at 10, and I'll see you next week right back here on 10 at 10. Thank you.